looks like we are live.
Awesome.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man.
You know,
I didn't.
it's weird because you never know when you're live and when you're not live. But for anyone out there, I'm Brandon. This is my guest tonight, Cesar.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Would you like to let everyone know who you are and a little bit about yourself while we get this thing kicked off?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thanks, Brandon, for inviting me on your live show. So my name is Cesar Pagan. I am the host of my podcast, which is Beyond the Frequency 369. And kind of new to the podcast world. So I just pretty much opened up a shop, so to speak, around September of this year.
Mhm.
And so far been doing okay. I am on, you can find me on Rumble, on YouTube for the videos, and for audio, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and yeah, and that's that.
I was going to have graphics on here, but for some reason they're not on here. So the number is not being shown right now. So for anyone out there listening, I'm going to put the number in the chat and I'll put it out there for anyone else, but it is 765-431-7958. Why that doesn't show up on the screen like I have it in the background on what you and I can see,
Yeah,
but doesn't show up on the stream, which is weird. But that is the number for anyone wanting to call in. So,
technical difficulties. We all have them.
well, I'm using a different streaming platform than what I used to use. So for me,
Oh,
I can probably do some stuff here and there, but I don't really know a whole lot about Restream. I always use StreamYard, and
ah,
they made the prices go up.
mm.
So it's hard to want to pay that. And then I tried to use Restream directly so I could put all the backgrounds and stuff into that, and it didn't work with my setup. So I had to go
Mm.
back to Zoom. So
Makes sense. I was
it,
wondering about that. Yeah, I saw when it was a Zoom invite, I was like, Zoom, I don't recall him using this. So okay, now I get it. It makes sense.
yeah. So for anyone out there listening, again, it is 765-431-7958. You can call and talk about any of the weird experiences you have out there. But Caesar and I got together about a couple months back, and we had a great conversation. I said I wanted to have you on here, and we were actually going to do a normal episode just for the interview today for the podcast. But I thought maybe have you come on here and we'll do a live stream, kind of kick off the end of the year because every Sunday at 10 p.m. starting on the last Sunday of January, I'm going to start doing a weekly call-in show. So this is kind
Mm.
of like a little prelude to what I'm going to be doing.
Love it, man. It's a great idea. Yeah, no, when you made this suggestion from going from an episode recording to a live stream, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience on the live stream, so this is great. I love it. I'm also excited to see if anybody does call in, interact, comments, like that whole experience. I am here for all of that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for anyone, someone already tried to call and they called a little bit earlier. So if you're still out there, you're more than welcome to call back in. But
Hmm.
the call in thing is kind of a new thing for me. Like I've had other people call in beforehand, but it's one of those things where like you never know what you're going to get. You don't know who's going to call. You don't know if anyone's going to call. So if you're up here by yourself and you're just talking and you have no one call in, it's like, man, what am I supposed to do? If
Yeah.
it's, I don't know.
Yeah. I
It's just
mean,
one of those things.
yeah, while they're so that way you don't have that what do you call it? Air silence or silence of air, on the stream. You can just start I don't know, showing all your cool toys, your posters, your tap dancing some.
Hello. Hey, hey, how you doing?
Hey guys, it's Amber. How you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Hey Amber.
Hey, I just wanted to call and maybe talk. I had some sleep paralysis the other year that was kind of scary. Um, and I went looking for Sasquatch and Dogman and rocks, and I guess I ended up picking up a spiritual hitchhiker for a while. So that resulted in me being touched on the porch and nothing was there multiple times.
Hmm.
So um, I didn't know. I just thought I'd call in and try to kick things off and maybe do a little bit of sharing.
Yeah, definitely.
So at the beginning of COVID, I'll talk about the sleep paralysis. It was like my third day out of my parents' house, and I thought I was awake. I didn't know what sleep paralysis was. And there was something made out of, I'll call it a black static mist. What is the thing on Harry Potter in the sky everybody talks about flying around? It's like a weird black mist.
I am
Do you know what
not.
I'm talking about?
I'm not a Harry Potter person,
Yeah,
so
same. I
I'm not
apologize.
either. Well,
What
there's
what
this thing
color
that
black
flies in the
mist?
sky. So okay, so this thing is like the size of a football player, whatever it was, and with every step it took, it's just like I was laid out on the couch. It just came marching around the corner and stood over top of me, and I literally, was just frozen in place, and I felt so stupid because it's like, don't look at it, don't look at it, and I was like, oh, that's great. What's that going to do? Don't look at it. And its face formed in its chest and it roared at me. And
Hmm.
all I could do was lay there. And when I came to, obviously all the lights were off in the house. My friend was upstairs asleep. I was just perplexed. I was like, wait a minute, that was so vivid, so real. And then the lights are off and nobody's down here. So I didn't know if I had gotten spiritually attacked. And, I reached out online and people said, look up sleep paralysis and I think you'll find your culprit. And then when I talked to Vicky Joy Anderson, I believe she has, some other thoughts on paralysis and that maybe it's not just sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
I've actually my experience with sleep paralysis is strange because I never realized I had sleep paralysis. But like for me, I've woken up from sleep and I couldn't move. So I've always wondered if I was able to if I was still asleep. I always just wrote it off as my body is still sleeping. But
Right.
it is very weird, and I get that quite a bit. So I don't know if I consider it sleep paralysis or if it's still just not 100% awake.
I
Yeah,
think I'm kind of with Vicky on it. Like, I think it's a little more than sleep paralysis. It's kind of like we're being accessed in our sleep, sometimes kicked out of our body,
yeah.
things of this sort.
Hmm.
Yeah. Amber, so again, thank you for sharing that. That's actually a very interesting story I'm sorry, let's go back. Interesting experience, because that's what it actually was. I agree
Yeah.
with Brandon. I don't think it's sleep paralysis because, like Brandon said, sleep paralysis, the reason that happens is so you don't hurt yourself, you know, because like if you're
Right.
if you're if you're dreaming and let's say you're fighting something, whatever it is, you're moving around and you have a significant other sleeping next to you, if you start swinging and kicking it, you could hurt people, you can hurt
Right.
yourself. So when we shut down and we go to bed, and when we get into that REM sleep, our body knows to switch down to lower down and go to sleep paralysis. It's a mechanism, it's a biomechanism to protect you, to protect this container, this vessel. What I think may have happened with you was when our body goes into that sleep paralysis, our electric magnetic field goes down.
Mhm.
And let me make sure I'm clear. I'm not an expert at this. This is just stuff that I have an understanding of. Okay, so I'm just sharing
Okay.
my thought on this. So our electromagnetic field on our body that comes from our heart, it's our EMF. When it goes
Hmm.
down, it then can allow what's being contained, which is our energy, our spirit, our soul, whatever you want to call it. And I
Right. Right.
believe that's the soul that leaves the body, kind of like when you park your car and you kind of turn on the little toot toot, right? So
Hmm.
so your body's parked, your body then goes out into dream world or any other multi-dimension, because don't forget, we are multi-dimensional beings. And what it sounds
Right.
like from what you're saying is while your energy body, while your higher self was out dreaming multi-dimensions, it ran into another multi-dimensional being, which could be considered the Bigfoot or a version of it. It could have been actually anything, but it may have manifested to you in order to perceive it as what you would call a Bigfoot. So we don't really know what it is, but you encountered another entity, whatever that may be. I wanted to ask you, did you feel scared? Were you scared when
Oh, I
this,
was terrified.
you were
I was
terrified?
terrified. I was
Okay.
absolutely terrified. And I've heard about people with dogmen sometimes. Um, something similar, like there's been a new thing with them forming where they're not flesh and blood. I guess people have had some other experiences, but you hear about when they're walking and you just hear like with every step that they take. You know, some people say they feel the ground shake. It was equivalent to that. I mean, that thing was probably 6'5" or bigger, and its face formed in its chest, and it roared at me like I couldn't do anything about it. That's all
Mm.
I could do was lay there. You know.
Do you have dogmen
Yeah.
sightings in your area?
Um, there was one in 2020, the next county up. I've went up there looking a couple times, but I personally have not had any encounters.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
I don't
But
know.
I do. Oh, go ahead.
as I say, when it comes to like when you see the cryptids and everything else, for what I know about sleep paralysis, it seems to be more or less more of a spiritual type of aspect to it. It's
Right.
a lot of people correlate that with Hat Man, and
I don't know what it was.
I know like a lot of people see like the Shadow Man or the Hat Man or something like that. Usually with sleep paralysis, and sometimes they think that's more like of a demonic type spirit, like something like
That's
a succubus, an incubus, something like that that's trying to suck off your energy.
just felt like it was demonic, whatever it was. Like I thought I just had some profound, spiritual experience at that point. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
That's wow,
yeah.
that's super interesting.
And
Um,
I put a horseshoe up out here as far as the hitchhiker.
yeah.
Uh, I haven't had any problems for a while, but I was getting touched for like a good 2 months. And then I did hear a disembodied voice once. That was a first out here. It was garbled, maybe like 4 words. I don't know what it said, but it literally caused me to get up and look behind me, and there's nothing but a roof right there because I'm out on a deck, and it's part of the house, so nobody could be standing there, and
Mm.
it that tripped me out. So I started burning a white candle at night. I didn't sit in the dark out here anymore watching videos. And then somebody found a horseshoe in the yard. So I heard about wrought iron and I hung it up out here on the porch.
Mm.
And then when I went back to the park, I said out loud, whatever came home with me, you need to go home. You don't
Yes.
have any dominion with me. You need to go home. I don't want you. And I've brought you back to where you belong.
Yes.
So
Very
that,
good.
that was my plan.
Yeah, good
So,
job. Good job. It's Amber, right?
yes.
Okay, Amber. Yeah. And just for because some people don't know who I am and everything. I speak on a lot of spiritual consciousness, power of the you inverse, how powerful you are. So this is as folks will be listening today. This is where I come from, where I talk about that, where Brandon's more into the cryptid and things like that. So just to kind of to be clear on where I get my information from. But um, I wanted to remind you, Amber, that you are a powerful being. Okay. And I'm not talking about in the human being sense. You are an omnipotent being. Okay. Your higher self. So don't allow anything to put you in a fear state. And whatever that entity was putting you into a fear state because it knew that it could. Do you understand?
Right.
So
Oh
when you
yeah, I was
put,
really
yeah,
vulnerable. Yeah, at that
okay.
time I was super vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it knows that, it can sense that miles away, eons away, whatever the case is. So it can sense that. So because you're powerful, like you did, you can tell it, you can demand it to leave you alone, just like that. Okay. The
Yep.
only thing that's vulnerable about you is your corporeal self. But the true essence of you is untouchable, uncontrollable, okay, undefeatable,
Mhm.
unmanipulatable, right? So as long as you are aware that that's who you truly are, it will recognize that if you have that confidence. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So
I do.
anytime if
I
that
don't
ever
think I
happens
had
again,
that then, but
mhm,
I got it now, you
good,
know?
good, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with COVID, everything, and I got this place, so I was kind of in shock, when that happened, and it makes sense to me. I feel like I was just ripe for them to mess with me at that time. It
yeah.
kind of doesn't surprise me, I guess. And as the few years have went on, the more research I do, and then you talk to people and find out how to protect yourself and how to grow spiritually, and things turn around.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Protect your energy 24/7. Just simply for those that are listening, not just Amber, but you can simply protect yourself by just saying, I am protected. I am protected. And based off of the somatic frequencies that you're putting out there with your voice, with your sound, your intention needs to follow that sound as well. So as you say, I am protected, visualize yourself in whatever way, that you're armoring yourself up, a shield, a bubble. If you like Marvel superheroes, imagine it like Iron Man suit coming onto you, however way that you're comfortable visualizing that action of protecting yourself, but just say, I am protected, and then go to bed and nothing will touch you. Believe that,
That's
trust
what's
in
up.
that.
That is what's up.
Yeah, just
Could
do
you
that.
put your information in the chat? That way,
Yeah,
I can look
absolutely.
you up and subscribe and continue to follow up.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I will put my tree link, my link tree. But I appreciate
That's
you,
what's up.
Amber. And again, thanks for sharing that.
Thank
That is
you.
beautiful.
And thank you, Brandon, for having me on. I'm going to hop off of here and give somebody else a chance, and I'll be modding. So thanks, guys.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
That
See ya.
was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome, Brandon. I like that.
You know what I forgot to do because I'm a dumbass sometimes?
Why?
I forgot to hit the record button.
No, no.
So
Did you really? Okay.
it'll just be a YouTube release. There won't be no audio release for this, which is honestly what I was actually going to do with these call-in shows. Anyways, I want to make it like a YouTube exclusive. Right now we're on Rumble and Facebook. I think it's working too. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But when I start doing the weekly Sunday night shows, it's only going to be on YouTube. Someone's like, "Are you going to release the audio?" I was like, "Probably not," because I wanted to be specifically something just for YouTube.
Okay. That makes sense, man. Well, I mean, hey, whatever you feel comfortable with, your audience and you know what you prefer, where you're going with this. So I'm here for it, dude.
It's me kind of getting back to the old I don't want to channel. I was never into coast to coast. Like I knew what it was. I've heard some stuff here and there, but I wasn't like an avid listener.
Mhm.
But that's the type of show that inspired all of this for everyone else. So for me, the whole call in aspect is what I've always liked about it because you never know who's going to call in. You never know what they're going to talk about. Like when I do interviews with people, I don't even ask them a lot of the times what we're going to talk about because
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of not knowing
Yeah, yeah. That's the beautiful part, right?
because you never know where it's going through.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you mentioned coast to coast. Right, the coast to coast AM, something like that.
Yep.
Dude, man, I don't hear them I don't hear him anymore, but I used to listen to him way back when, even before I got into all this stuff, and I used to love that. And now that you mentioned that, that's what you remind me of.
They
That's
are.
what you reminded me of. Yeah, I was like, man, his format reminds me of something. I couldn't connect the dots, but there it is, coast to coast. I love it, man.
I'm
but Tinfoil tells it better.
I'm channeling the energy of Art Bell. Like I said, I was never an avid Ghost Ghost fan, but he pioneered the way for everyone. So you got to pay respects to the guy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Is anyone
Um,
else out there? It should be above my name. Should have the number now. It should at the very top. It should have another name with a call-in number.
yeah, I see it.
Art
I,
Bell was way better than George Newry or Snorri, as Greg says.
oh, was that the was that the replacement?
Yeah. I don't know. Are
Um,
you able to see the chat?
I am not able to see the chat. Talking about on Zoom, you mean like if I open up the chat box?
No, there's a live chat going on
Oh
between.
no.
Yeah, I can see it. That's the thing I don't like with this. StreamYard was good, and
Yeah.
I would go back to StreamYard, but they upped the rates to $45 a month.
Oh geez. No, that's too
So,
much.
so StreamYard can like get off their high horse, literally.
Yeah. Well, maybe I probably can't see it because doesn't look like I'm signed in.
Well, it's not on. It would be you'd have to see it on I guess the YouTube channel itself,
Yeah.
but
It's all
I see it
good.
because I did the whole restream, so I'm seeing it up on both screens. So if anyone's looking at me and I'm looking at the screens. I'm also trying to promote the thing.
Yeah. Put the well, let me see. No, never mind. I was gonna say put the link on there for me, but then I might be hearing
You might hear
double echo and stuff.
you
Yeah.
have to
So
mute the one.
oh dang, you're a smart guy.
Uh, I don't know how to send a link to it from over here though.
You can't put it in the chat, in the Zoom chat.
There is no. Hang on. Let me
I mean,
copy
I'm seeing that's well then I don't know where I put the
here.
because I put my link tree on the Zoom chat, which is probably not where I need to put it.
I'm sending you the link to the restream, and
Okay.
I'm gonna copy your link and post it over in
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do that. Okay.
this for everyone out there listening. Just got a text. Amber had already put your link up, but I did it for you too.
Nice. Appreciate that. Cool. Thanks, Amber.
Bryce
Um,
said they took Art Bell out. I remember his Facebook post about seeing people around his property and people being out on his property. So there is a conspiracy about the death of Art Bell, and I haven't really touched base on it because I don't know a whole lot about it. But someone actually reached out to me earlier this year and claims that they were a relative of Art Bell and they wanted to come on. And then when it got time to actually come on to the show, they backed out of it for whatever reason.
oh
And
man.
then they hit me up again and said we can try it again, but it's just kind of one of those topics of like I'm not going to keep booking things for someone to back out at the last second.
Yeah.
Like I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I understand things happen, but like if it's an uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have in the first place, I get it, but don't reach out to me to try and talk about it if you're going to back out literally right when I'm waiting for you to join the chat.
That's the worst. That's the worst. I knock on wood, I haven't had that yet. So
I've had it plenty of times.
yeah, you're a veteran. You're a veteran at the people ghosting you.
That is the problem that people don't understand. Like when you do podcasting, especially this type of like field that we're doing it in, you never exactly know what you're going to end up getting from people because I book so many episodes. I say but like interviews to stay ahead just in case I don't get those interviews. So
Yeah.
that was my goal from when I first started. Like I didn't release the podcast until I already had like 10 interviews recorded. That way I had 10 weeks worth of stuff consistently. And then I just kept doing interviews. So I've always been ahead. And that's
Yeah.
how I've always tried to plan. Like that's just my mentality about things. So I don't know if it works for people. That's great. It works for me. I know some other people struggle with it, the concept of it, but I've been blessed enough and privileged enough to have people that actually want to be on the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I don't know how you do it though. Between balancing, I mean, for me personally, trying to balance my work, then my relationship, with the kids as well, and then trying to do a podcast and take time to do that. Um, I don't know how many you do a week. How many do you do a week?
It depends, but usually like 3 or 4.
Dang. Yeah, that's wild.
Once I'm doing this every Sunday night, I'm cutting back to probably just doing 2 interviews a week.
Mm, okay.
I've got the live one, and then I'll do 2 interviews. So I'll still stay ahead, but that's my plan, to try and stay on air.
Yeah.
Someone asked you if there is a meaning behind 369.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. I'm not sure who it was,
It was
but
my buddy Greg.
okay, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, 369. So Nikola Tesla had said that if you understand the power of the number 369, you will understand the universe. And Nikola Tesla, you can look him up. And he'll talk about 360, yeah, about 369 everywhere. Like he would stay at hotels, on the third floor on the sixth day of the week. Like, I mean, he always makes sure that everything had to do with 369. He would do things repetitive. Um, Maybe he may do, like, I don't know, if he worked out, just kind of give you an example, but if he worked out, maybe he'll do, like, 3 sets, 6 times, 9 for 9 months or something like that. But anyways, 369, it was just something that he was really on, and it gravitated to me, because I love numerology and I love the power of numbers, and it's always interesting. We see synchronicities, right? Where you look at your clock and you see 444 or 1111 and things like that. So it got me interested in just saying, what do these numbers mean? Or what are they trying to tell me? Because I did learn through numerology that the numbers don't rule you. They're just there to kind of whisper, kind of guide you. Um, many times we've many times we've been in situations where we are like, just, I need a sign. Just, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? And but then we don't know where to look. So for me, I look at numbers. For example, my power number is 2, and that's based off of my birth date. So if you look at your birth date, so mine's on the 20th, the day. So it breaks down to a 2. So anywhere that I have 2, anywhere that I see 2 just kind of guides me, tells me which direction to look, if I'm following the right path. So let's say, for example, I go to a building, or a restaurant, and the restaurant, let's say it's some number that eventually, once you add it up, you break it down to, from a 2 digit down to a singular digit, and let's say it adds up to 2. That tells me I'm going to have a great meal there. If I see 2s on if I'm trying to buy something, the more 2s that I see on the price tag, it tells me that it's for me. So things like that. So yeah, 369 is just one of those numbers that I understand. I encourage you guys to look it up and see what that means to you. But for me, it just tells me that there's a lot more to understand in this universe. And this goes back to my podcast title, Beyond the Frequency 369. It means that there's more to what we see here by going beyond it. So I hope that answered your questions in some sense.
Were you able to get the link to work for you?
No, I clicked on it, Brandon, and it then said, "Oops, something went wrong."
Yeah.
So
I don't like this whole restream format. I paid for a month, so if it doesn't work, I'll probably just hex it, just because it's not worth paying the extra money for something that's not really doing what I needed it to do.
yeah, absolutely. So but yeah, no, Brandon, thanks for passing that message on, because yeah, I'm not seeing any of that stuff. The only thing that I'm able to see is the chat for your Zoom call here.
Okay. Yeah,
So
there's another link I probably should have sent from Restream, but I don't.
it's
Like,
all good.
I'm not familiar with a Restream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there
It's
anyone
about
out there? Oh, there's a call coming.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Um, Told me to call in, so I didn't know what time you're calling in.
Is
So
No, any time. We had someone on the line a little bit ago, but the line is now open, so we're here to talk.
Yeah, Brian Bowden, Brian M. Bowden, sometimes referred to as Sir Brian. Uh, and you were looking for cryptid stuff, so I don't know what you want to do or uh, the whole main thing about calling in. But the 369, by the way, relates to frequencies and the variety of frequencies and how the frequencies and play a role in unlocking the keys to the universe. Everything's
Yes.
on vibration, resonance, and
I
frequency.
love it. I love it. I love it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
So, no, not a problem whatsoever. I have been asked to call in too many times recently. But yeah, no, just figured I'd call in and I'm just trying to follow along with the show at this point. So, I don't know what direction you want to go in, but I pretty much can go in all of it. I've been doing this for a long time.
This is pretty
Yeah.
much whatever goes. Like that's how I plan on doing these call-in shows when they kick off. It's pretty much going to be
Oh,
whatever anyone wants
well,
to
yeah.
talk about.
I'm
Yeah.
actually doing the same thing. I've been, I've been okay, just so everybody knows a little bit of background. A boots on the ground research investigator of cryptids, UFOs, experiences, alien abductions, high strangeness, paranormal, whatever else you want to call it. I'm a remote viewer and a medium. So I've been doing this for a while. So this is like you tell me a direction you want me to go, and I'll tell you whatever you want me to tell you. Whatever you need. But it sounds like your guest had frequencies, and so yeah, that's where I was.
What got you into this whole field?
It's just a curiosity. Monster movies were a big role. Growing up. Then you got the In Search of stuff because I'm older than some of you guys. And I loved astronomy, planets, and the what if. And I asked a lot of questions. And at one point, when I went to college, I studied astronomy and physics. So I was looking to be an astrophysicist at one point, and I employed a lot of the scientific method as much as you can on investigations. But I will be brutally honest with you, and anybody that says different, I would question if you go out 10 times, 9 out of those 10 times, no matter what you're going for, be it paranormal, which I consider more ghost hunting, or cryptids or high strangeness, you're not going to get anything. It's the 10th time that you do have an experience or an interaction, and that's where, I guess the payday is for someone who's curious that has a lot of questions and wants answers. So that's the God's honest truth. I've seen way too many people on that I know very well, and apparently every 6 hours or every other day they have a paranormal encounter, and I mean, I gotta be honest, it's no way. It's not plausible or possible. A lot of people are wanting to stay relative to the subject matter, right? And they want, the whatever spotlight you get from doing these shows. I mean, I've been the host of Beyond the Realm, in the Goblin universe. I was on Three Beards. I started as a guest. They asked me to come on as a co-host, and I have another one coming on that I'm doing called Third Eye Live. And the basic premise is how your third eye influences you and what you do and what you're experiencing. And that's no matter, if you're a tarot reader, psychic, a channel, artist, guitarist, violinist, whatever it is. It's more interesting that way. How, your consciousness, that third eye, that magical zone in the pineal gland, actually gives you the influence, gives you the, that gut feeling. Everybody has the ability to be psychic. Okay. It's not something, miracle or whatever, We all have the ability. It's whether you're open to that ability and then you decide to go and use it.
Right.
And that's where people don't understand. Like, when, I don't want to get religious, but I gotta put this point out. When God made man in his image, he gave them the ability to talk to their father, God. Okay? That's the intuition, that's the psychic ability. That's why I know there's plenty of psychics out there. You can go to whoever you want, but they tell you not to go to soothsayers or psychics because you have the ability. It's the innate ability. Now, the fun part in the paranormal world is, and I vet every psychic I meet, by the way. There's a lot of people out there that are psychotic more than they're psychic. And I'm very polite about it. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'll walk away. You have to tell me something that there's no way in hell you should know before I'll even remotely consider you. And that's a true gifted person using their abilities, not someone who is, as I've been born and raised in New York City, you can become streetwise. You know how to read people. You know how to pick up on little nuances, and you can kind of do things, right? There's a big difference there between the carnival act versus the true psychic. So a lot of females that are, that watch your show and in life, most of them are more psychic than males because they use two hemispheres of their brain. Okay. When you get to the male side of it, in general, we don't normally use both hemispheres unless you're quantitative, mathematical, artistic. Then you start using more of that intuition, God-given gift. And so, that's where you have to distinguish. You can everybody can do it. Everybody can remote view. It's when you guys were talking before this, like, how many shows you do. If you're bogged down by doing shows and all the stresses of life, it's going to be hard to tune into that gift that you have. And I've been doing this since I was young. I didn't know I was psychic at the time, but I would play a game. I'd take a bus from where I lived in one borough of New York City into Manhattan to go to school. And when, you get on the bus, you're bored, you're looking for something to do. So I'd pick somebody out on the bus and I'd just focus on them and mentally say, turn around. Come on, turn around. You want to turn around. And you're concentrating on them. And what you're doing actually internally is you're connecting to them on a level where their frequency and vibrations meet your frequency and vibration. And a lot of times you get people that, I would say 9 out of 10 times, you get people that turn around very sheepishly and look at you in the back where I was. Then you get the people that are really good at what they do, and they may not use it and understand it, but they turn around immediately and they look at you like, cut the shit.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. It started with that. It started with, a lot of questions, and it's still a lot of questions. I mean, I've had numerous encounters with Bigfoot throughout the Northeast, down even, the entire Northeast, and other cryptids too. I mean, I've been face to face with a dogman, cute name. I hate that cryptid. Many UFO experiences, missing time experiences. My first encounter with Bigfoot was in a summer camp in Connecticut. And it was way back when I was 10 years old, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a bunk and I'm sleeping on top of a double decker. And I had to get up and go to the bathroom. So besides that, I also smelled the skunky smell. Now, if you've ever been to the state of Connecticut or a lot of states that are rural, they have skunks. So smelling a skunky type of musky odor is not unusual. So I open my eyes, I'm in a bunk, and it's a long bunk. So there's about 7 beds on double deckers on one side of the bunk and about 5 on the other. It's packed. And the lights were all out. That means whoever our counselors were came back from, if they were on duty watching the bunks, they went to bed. Or if they came back from town being off, they all went to sleep. So they shut the lights off so they can sleep. So I knew that the counselors were back. And when I got up, by my feet was a 3 foot by 3 foot window. And as I sat up in my bed to, get up and swing my feet off, I noticed in the window the largest monkey gorilla I've seen in my life. And his head was no more than 6 inches max from where my feet were. And it was three panes of glass on top and three on the bottom. And it made a 3 by 3 window. So I mean, he was looking in the window, like peeking back and forth, looking around like, ooh, what's going on in there type of look. And I could see the brow. It's a big, brow area there. A little bit more like a Cro-Magnon would have. And then I could see the nostrils, and they were a little bit more flared. It looked a little more gorilla-ish. And it was at night, not much light. So the skin was a darker color. But you could see there was black eyes, big black eyes. And the head literally was wider than the window. So I laid back in my bed and I didn't move for about 45 minutes because I'm about 10 years old. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is that? And I was kind of unnerved. And after a while, it was either me peeing the bed and getting Billy Carmen below me wet, or I had to go to the bathroom. So I slowly slid my feet very, very slowly back away from the window. And I went to the head portion of the bed that was, protected by him or whatever it was, not seeing me. And I slid down and I literally dog crawled underneath beds, like in the military, that crouch, and stopping because at one point I had to go past the same wall that had the window that this thing was looking in. There's a door frame there, a door. And I'm like, what if this thing opens the door? So I went really slow by there. And then I went all the way underneath all the beds. And I went to the bathroom. And then when I caught back, I peeked out and there was nothing whatsoever there in the window. So I kind of crawled all the way back, went in bed, and forgot about it. I wasn't thinking Bigfoot because most of the information out there about this cryptid was the Pacific Northwest. So I wasn't thinking Bigfoot was in Western Connecticut. Boy, was I wrong, because a larger sightings and population of sightings of Bigfoot are actually in the Appalachian Mountains all the way down from the Canada all the way into the east coast of the United States. So just curious, many, many years ago, probably about 15, 20 years ago, I decided to do, I've been deep into the research. I go investigate, I'm interviewing people, keeping records, taking pictures, the whole thing, a variety of things. I looked up Bigfoot sightings in this northwestern portion of Connecticut. And the same year that I had my sighting, right next to my summer camp is a big reservoir. So what separates it is maybe 100 yards worth of woods. So there's a summer camp, which it's like 280 acres. And then to the right of it, if you're looking at it on a map, there's about 100 yards of woods. And then you get to a big reservoir. And once I mention the name of the reservoir, you'll understand, you'll get an idea of another thing that took place. The name of the reservoir was Crystal Lake, as in
the same one,
the
from,
movie.
like, the movie. Yeah.
Yes. And matter of fact, when they were filming that movie, the producers came up to my camp. Now, I was lucky because my mother was the head counts of the girls' side. So I was up in that camp from April till end of September every year. So we were like family with the owners. And I remember the producer coming up, wanting to film there. Yeah, Friday the 13th. And he's explaining what's going to happen and we'll repair everything. And this woman said no. She didn't want the bad press. right? Because she thought it was negative. It was a horror film. You know, it's going to impact her sales. Well, bad mistake on her part. But yeah, that's where they got Crystal Lake Camp from.
Brian, let me interject for a second. I have a question. Can I ask you some questions?
Go for it.
Awesome. And now, first of all, Brian, thank you for sharing that. That's what an experience. And I caught when you mentioned that you've encountered these Bigfoots numerous times, correct? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a Bigfoot researcher. Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you this, your opinion. What do you think the Bigfoot is? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I mean, you know, okay. So originally, I thought it was flesh and blood, a subsection or a missing link type of thing to Gigantopithecus. That's the only thing that made sense, right?
Okay.
North American gorilla,
Mhm.
unknown species of gorilla, you know, Gigantopithecus. But as I told you, I studied physics and astronomy. And in 2015, my whole, well, every time you have an encounter, you start to have to reevaluate your previous hypothesis, right?
Right, right.
So
Yes.
you have certain questions like this, and that. You know, and when people say, "Well, you should be using the scientific method," it's not like it's consistent that you know Bigfoot A is going to constantly come out and do the same thing.
Right.
You know, scientific method only works in a controlled situation,
Right. And Bigfoot is
and
not a
this is not
controlled
a controlled.
situation.
No,
Correct.
most of the subject, you know, tinfoil hat stuff, is not constant. I mean, you do have some ghost or residual type of hauntings. It's like a you know replay. Okay,
Mm.
and we're getting better with some of the you know communications now with the dead. There's a great group Staticom, Staitcom. Uh, Ron and Lourdes, and I forgot the other two that are part of it, and they use a radio type of thing with white noise to actually have real time conversations. It's called ITC. But in relationship to the Bigfoot, so I thought it was you know it's leaving prints, it's real, it's live, it's here, whatever. 2015, we did a day night expedition in an area in upstate New York by a lake. And to get to the lake, when you get to, you know, you have to walk a mile into this park to get to the lake. And then once you get to the lake, on the left-hand side, which kind of like the Appalachian Trail goes in and out of, to get to where we were going to go at the top of the lake is about 2 miles. So you have to walk this on the left-hand side because the right-hand side, most of it becomes a goat trail. So we can't go through there. We're going to get killed, you know. And we have to be ginger about this because we're not supposed to be there in the park after sunset. But as long as you're on the Appalachian Trail, it kind of straddles that you could be there, but you couldn't. So we go to the top of the lake. There's been reports of high strangeness there, some old sightings of what you would call the wild man or Bigfoot, you know. And we're there, and we hear the rock knocks. So we hear them in the distance, click, click, you know, and we get in there about 4-ish. By the time we get over to the other top of it, 2 miles in, it's about 5 o'clock, and we set ourselves up. We kind of get away from the path so that if someone walks through the path, they're not really going to see us. And we're going to do a day-night investigation. This happens to be what do you call it? Witching night, or the 30th of October. There's a full moon, a meteor shower, perfect, and it's actually pretty warm. So it's myself, a buddy of mine, and two other buddies of mine. One which he just wanted to go along. The other one I investigate with, and I used to investigate with him a lot, but I moved to Florida, and it's just the three of us. And you can feel a pressure building up in the area, right? I'm going to do a quick story. So we keep hearing tree knocks, we hear rock knocks, and we hear things moving like on the foliage, like bipedal movement, something big and heavy. And when I say that, even though I didn't see it, I've been to outdoor expos and carnivals where they had elephants and larger animals. You feel the ground moving. It's when something that's 1,000+ pounds or a ton is hitting the ground, you're going to feel it. There is some feeling to that movement. So as we're having this, at one point, one of the guys we spread ourselves out. So there was one guy named Bill. He was sitting near a stone fence that you would find in the woods. Then my buddy Al was in the middle. He has rocks behind him. And then I'm 10 feet to the right of him. And I've got a little bit of a hill and some woods behind me. And this is where we're situated. And at one point, we hear the rock knocks. We hear a rock knock on our side. Tree knock, tree knock. It's getting louder and louder. And at one point, we hear something creeping up from behind Bill. It's coming from behind us. And it does a bluff charge. Now, gorillas do bluff charges. Bears do bluff charges. Well, that scared the hell out of Bill. Bill ran for his life. I got up. My buddy grabbed him to stand his ground because it was pitch black. He's going to poke his eye out. I went to the right of my buddy, kind of forming a triangle. All we had was machetes because none of us had firearms. And you don't want to be in a state or a federal park and firearms. You're going to jail for a year. Okay. But we do have big cat and bear, and you got to protect yourself. So I'm there, fight or flight. Where I had the machete drawn. Nothing shows up. We hit it with 6 million candlewatt power lights. Nothing. Infrared, full spectrum. You name it. Nothing. All right. And there's more pressure building up, and there's a huge pressure, and it feels like whenever you're out in the summer and it's going to rain, you can feel the pressure of the rain coming in, the low pressure. I don't know if anybody's experienced that before, but that's what you can feel. And that's basically what was taking place. So we didn't move. So we hear the rock knocks again, and they're closer, and they're closer to us, that camp, maybe 100 yards away, but we kind of see where in the general area where they are. And the next thing we hear is whoop, 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 3 huge whoops. It was so loud and so intense, you can feel it reverberating off your body. Kind of like if you go to a concert, you feel the bass.
Right.
You're okay. You gotta, right. So the first 2 whoops were, close by. The third whoop was at the other end of the lake, 2 miles down. And at that point, I'm like, how the hell did they do that? The only way you can do that without messing the cadence up, without screwing the vocalization, it's the same vocalization. And yes, Bigfoots are very good mimics. The only way that thing could do it is if he opened a portal where he was, stepped into it, and came out at the other end of the lake.
So Brian, let me interrupt you
changed.
right there before you continue, because there's a couple of things I want to break down here and ask your thoughts on. So again, amazing story. I'm following along. So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like to me from the way you're telling the story, were you going into that area to find Bigfoot? Just answer that one first.
Yes.
Okay. So your intention.
My intent, our intention was to have documenting and having an encounter with
Bigfoot. Okay, cool. So that's clear then. All right. So we know what your intention was. Now, now can you tell me also, because I'm not too familiar with the Bigfoot, what they do, certain things, but when you mentioned a lot that they were doing a lot of this rock knocking, can you tell me your understanding of why they do the knock rocking? What purpose does that serve?
I'll tell you exactly what it serves. It's a communication tool, covertly done, so not to make it sound like there's somebody there. So you'll hear a click, click, or you'll hear a tree knock, like they take a piece of wood and they whack it against the tree, or their hand against the tree. And they're communicating. I'm over here, and whoever is, on the opposite side where they want to go, I'm over here. So I got you. And it also, in my opinion, is giving you the go-ahead to say, yeah, keep going. So they'll use rock knocks. They'll take 2 rocks or take a rock and smack it against another rock to make a click, click, clanking sound.
You said giving you the go ahead to keep going. You as in you? Are they telling you to
No,
keep coming in?
I'm saying, let's use a visual so people can understand.
Hmm.
If you hold your hand up, it doesn't matter what hand it is. And I'm camping myself. I'm in the pinky. This is where our camp is. There is a Bigfoot near the pinky, but the rock knocks are coming by where my thumb is, that far away.
Okay.
So there's something over there, and there's something by the pinky, besides us camping over by the pinky. Okay. Usually these are clan oriented beings. Okay. So if you have a male, they'll be like an alpha type of being, a male, and then you'll have a female and they'll procreate and they'll have children. And basically, one is looking out for the other. So the others have their task, whatever they may be. They may be getting fish, they may be pulling berries. And they communicate back and forth to give like a location of where you are so they can keep track of where you guys are.
Right. I'm following
Okay, this is
that.
what you do. This would be like your dad saying, "Yo, just check in."
Right.
Or
Right.
you yell in the store, "Hey, where are you?" "Oh, I'm over here." So one's in toys, the other one's in, whatever shirts.
Okay.
Then I have
Okay.
an idea where you guys are. It just
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense, and I'm
okay.
following that. So let me add to that. So
Yeah.
I've in my on my podcast, I've interviewed an individual who has also multiple Bigfoot encounters. She's like a clairvoyant, sees with her third eye, things like that. And
Yep.
and I'm just comparing the two stories that I've heard. Yours to
Sure.
me sounds like there was some kind of, it wasn't intentional aggression, but you're really coming in to like with an intention to catch something, to see something. Your frequency, your vibration is very strong to these beings
Oh
from
yeah.
my
You know.
understanding. So right, so just to finish off this comment here, from the other individual that I've talked to, she's explained that they sense that. Now, like you mentioned, they have a clan, they probably have children. So
Yeah.
if I were them, I would be trying to find a way to, I would be aggressive towards people coming into my area, and anything else to protect families. So maybe,
Right.
yeah, maybe the whole reason why a lot of Bigfoot explorers outside of you that haven't encountered these Bigfoots in person is because they're coming in, they're too strong, you know?
No. Okay. So we're getting into a little gray area there, but
Hmm.
let me just explain that.
Please, yeah, by
The
all means.
reason why. Okay. So that third whoop was at the other end of the lake. The reason why there was three whoops, whoop, whoop, whoop. What that Bigfoot, in my opinion, was saying, it was telling its family or whatever who was trying to get over near where we were. It said, whoop, whoop, whoop. There's three of them. There have to be three of us. And you can clearly see we had machetes. They see a lot better than you think. And they know what a machete is. They know what a gun is. They know your intentions.
Right.
It was saying there's three of them. Take the longer way home.
Hmm.
So it was warning them that they're not moving. They tried to bluff charge us. We didn't leave. They whooped. We didn't leave. We have weapons. We're three strangers near their area. So it was warning the other, whoever was there for them, whatever
Right.
other Bigfoot,
Yeah, I'm
go the
following.
long way around. Now, after that ended, the last interaction we had with this creature was very much, it was a little bit more comical. It was weird, but it was comical. Where I was sitting, I heard something moving, crashing through the woods behind me. I felt a thud behind me and a roll. It hit my chair. It was a boulder.
Yeah.
And it was a big freaking rock, up like about 200 pounds worth of big rock. And it landed behind me and threw it. And it hit my chair and I kind of got projected out like, almost 10 feet, like, what the hell? And we look back and there it is. And I'm a big boy. I mean, I used to wrestle. This is a big rock. This thing was so pissed off we didn't leave. It was like, the hell with you guys. He was mad. We didn't go, but he didn't want to hurt us.
Mm.
Bigfoots in general, I'm not saying they're all like this, but my interaction with them has been pretty good. There have been aggressive ones because they're younger and they're kind of like, it's like teenagers, like dealing with teenagers. Right. Everybody, thinks who's got the bigger, junk, whatever.
Right.
Okay. But let's get into what you're saying. So each one of us has a frequency and vibration. Every one of us. We have electricity going through our bodies. Okay. And just like a cell phone has an electronic identification number, EIN, you have one too. It's specific to you. And the way they know it, they can feel and see the vibration, the frequency from you. And they can also see something that most people can't, your aura.
Correct.
And when you are a good soul and a good person, you have a different type of aura than someone who is researching. And there's plenty of people, and I'm not giving names because I'm not a name dropper, that I don't agree with, but their intentions is not to get questions and answers. Their intention is to invade a space and get as much evidence so they can become famous. Right. And there's a big difference in how you give off that energy. So going back to the other guest that you had on, that's how these creatures know who's good and who isn't. And on top of that, there may be I want to say a collective, a central consciousness that they all kind of go into. In our case, it would be the Akash record, the main source of information, the past, present, future, everything about everything. And I think when they recognize who you are and they know that you're a good person, good heart. I mean, when I go in, I do a remote view prior to going in, and I purposely will concentrate telling them, yes, we have weapons. They are for defensive purposes against other predators, not you. And so they understand the concept. And let me tell you that when you do have an encounter with a Bigfoot, it's not a joke. I mean, it could be, as I said, the encounter we had was like a depends moment. You better be wearing or have a change of underwear, because you're going to be puckering it up very quickly.
Right.
And there's reasons behind it. Okay. So I use the example, if everybody remembers the performer Michael Jackson. Okay. Michael Jackson used to carry a chimpanzee with him named Bubbles. That was about 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet tall. Okay. That chimpanzee Bubbles as a baby chimpanzee, has the ability to rip your arm off of your body. Do you understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So take Bubbles and increase him in size and strength and girth to 8, 9, 10 feet plus tall.
Oh yeah.
What do you think that thing can do to me?
Oh yeah.
Right? So there's a healthy respect there for what we're encountering. But I do believe, because I've been with people that I've gotten a bad vibe off of, and they'll get the rocks thrown at them, like, get him out of here. But there are other people that I know that are solid, great, wonderful people, that go in there with the right intention, a right mindset, which I think you have to do when you do a paranormal or this type of stuff.
Absolutely.
And they know, they know who you are, because every interaction I've had thereafter, you pick up this vibe. I know that they know I'm there. They know I'm coming prior to me coming. They tap into some information source. I can't explain it, but this is the only logical explanation for it. And they know I'm coming, and there's a respect on both ends. And I've had several encounters. They haven't come super, super close. I mean, they do, but they'll creep in, and you will not be able to see them, because this gets back to, what are they? So when that thing went from point A to point B, 2 miles in a second, I think Bigfoot, this is my opinion of them, are they can be flesh and blood here, and they have the ability to transform everything about them innately and go interdimensional.
I have to agree
They
with
have
you
the ability.
on that, Brian. I definitely do agree with you with that. My understanding of the Bigfoot is that it is a multi-dimensional being. So when it's here in our third density and it has to, follow these rules, it's a physical being. But when you see these Bigfoot move from one tree and then 2 miles down in a snap, is because, like you said, exactly like you said, to my understanding, is that they open up a portal and then they go through it and they wherever they go. So I do agree
Right.
with that
So
statement. Yeah.
right. So getting back into you know, how they do it, it's an innate ability. I can't. I've been writing my all the stuff down for years, and I am working on a book. Okay, theories of Bigfoot, whatever. But in the process, when you convert one form of energy, which is human, like flesh and blood, into another, first of all, it takes a lot more energy to convert. Let's go back to 369. It's drawing energy from the earth, which you can, because Tesla proved that Wi-Fi does work, Wi-Fi
Agreed.
power charging
Mhm.
wirelessly. But something that's really great to have on you is the ability that if you're drawing all this energy in, the first things you're going to hit are going to be the lithium-ion batteries, your camera batteries, all this other stuff. They affect the electronics in those things. They draw from it. That's why you see a lot of these research. I just put these batteries in, they're dead. Well, you have a
Yeah.
Bigfoot there, and they're dead because it's in between certain states. So when you hear people talk about, well, there are orbs associated with Bigfoot or UFOs, lights in the sky. No,
Mhm.
that's Bigfoot. It's just changing its molecular structure, and it
Brian,
can
I'm
go.
wondering, I apologize, but I'm wondering, based off of what you just said, I'm wondering if this is because when you said something, I just had a thought. When when people so-called try to capture a photo of or on camera of a Bigfoot and they see that kind of like shadowy, shifty thing,
Blobs,
based off
blobs,
of what you, yeah,
blobs.
based off of what you said, it sounds like uh they could be catching the Bigfoot in the middle of its shifting, whether in or out of this reality. And this is why you don't get a solid one where it poses and it says, "Here you go, take a picture," right?
You'll okay, yes, but yes and no. Let me explain. So if you use regular film with no batteries, like Giblin film, that had no electronics in it. It's nothing to draw. That's why you're getting straight film. It's a great film. I still think it's a great film. I do not believe it's a costume. And there's so much bullshit debate about it. I didn't want to go there. But when you're talking about anything that has batteries and operates on a sensor or whatever, it's messing with your energy. It knows you're there because it knows it sense your frequency and vibration. It's drawing itself, it's hiding itself, and in the process of hiding itself, think active camouflage like the predator. They
Yeah.
do that. There are many times you will have a Sasquatch in front of you, and right near you, you'll say, "Oh, I smell something really god awful. I smell like dead flesh or whatever." You have something right near you, and it's
Yeah.
using active camouflage. They're a master of that. And then when they convert that energy into the different energy to go interdimensional, you always have like a in the conversion process, there's always like a spark, pop or a pop. It's kind of like going from regular speed into breaking the sound barrier. It's similar concept, but in an electronic world or energy world, you get to a point where you convert and you will expend the rest of that energy, and it comes in sparks and orbs and different lights. That's why you're seeing lights with them.
I've got my
Okay.
own like little take on some of this too because it also relates to what people experience in the paranormal realm. Like say they go in there with the
Yeah.
battery packs and everything else and like everything's getting drained. They're feeding on the energy. They're feeding on those frequencies. They're manipulating things. They're taking that power source. So when people say
Yep.
that a house is haunted, a Bigfoot in an extent, I've always said that's all kind of connected one way or the other. And basically for me, it's like you get the paranormal aspect because they're feeding on that energy. Well, I think these things are doing the same thing too. So whatever these,
Well, they use. Yeah, they need this power. They need the energy to play around with the frequency, the different frequency of objects. See, everything is a frequency. If you can match the frequency of concrete, you can become concrete. Do you understand? This is how
Right. Yeah.
there's reports of extraterrestrials bringing people through concrete walls, and they're walking through a wall.
Yeah, I've talked
They
to
match that frequency and vibration, and they go through the wall because you can pass through it like butter through a knife because you're matching the frequency and the vibration. They do the same thing, and ghosts do the same thing. They're in a different plane, okay? But when you pass over from this life into another life, like whether you're going to heaven or hell, you still have access to the past, present, and future. You know it's going to happen. You have all that access, but you need to muster up enough energy, which is strength, to actually manipulate things, to push a door. And the more you use it, it becomes muscle memory, and your body just adapts and will pull from wherever. Because you remember, there's still energy around you that you don't see.
Yeah.
It's there's all this wireless energy that you can use to grow things and charge batteries and so on and so forth. That's what they've been doing. That's what Tesla's work. That's why he said, if you understand 369 and the different frequencies and how to map these frequencies and how to manipulate them to use them, you have the keys to the universe. You can travel wherever you want. You can do what you want.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter how thick the metal, the steel, the whatever it is, you'll go right through the wall. Remote viewing, try to explain that. Well, you're using your consciousness, you're dialing into frequencies and connecting to something. Because there is a signal from that. No matter the fact that person A has the intention of doing something, going from 1 to 2, that energy is sent out into the ether, and I'm just tapping into that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that brings a good point, Brian, because yes, everything is a frequency. I mean, even our thought, right? The electrodes going on in the brain. When we think of a thought, it turns into light, and it leaves our skull, and it goes into, let's call it the thought plane. I mean, we measure this out by just putting, scientists, peer-reviewed science has already, they put a cap on your head, they connect it to a computer, they show you a photo of war, and however way that you feel or that thought gets measured on the computer. It's a frequency, your emotions, right?
Yeah. Right. And let me tell you that you don't have to speak or say anything. The thought itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The thought
People
itself,
say,
everything.
Yeah. People always say there's nothing faster than the speed of light, and they're wrong. The faster than the speed of light by miles is thought.
It's thought. Yeah. I love that. I love that you pointed that out, that because some of these phrases serve the purpose then at that time. But as we are learning more scientifically and spiritually, our minds should now start changing some of those phrases. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's
I mean, you get into, when they talk about, spelling, like how to spell things. Talking is part of, I don't want to say witchcraft, but magic.
It's spellcasting. It's spellcasting. That's what spelling is. It's spellcasting, right?
So the words abracadabra that magicians use, it says, "What I say, I create."
Correct. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So this gets you're talking about like these tinfoil things and all these mysterious beasts and creatures and beings, right? But this is such a deeper concept, and people don't get it. It's not just about ghost hunting. There's other things going on here. And if I tell a great way to start playing around and getting your pineal gland and your third eye and your abilities working is you have to decalcify yourself.
Yes.
Fluoride and some other stuff. So I'm not a fish eater, but you can take liquid iodine, and that's good for you anyhow. And it'll help to decalcify your pineal gland because there's 2 crystals in there, natural crystals. And when they vibrate, they release other chemicals, one of which is DMT, and that gets rid of the inhibition. And that's why you're able to do some more things.
Absolutely.
All the time. Okay, so it gets into a little bit, we're getting into a gray area. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's
So,
so. I don't think it's so gray because, to your point, like a lot of people, if you don't understand something, you end up fearing it. Okay. This is where fear comes
yeah,
from in general. When you don't understand something in general, the first thing that comes up is your defense mechanisms, and you start saying, "Oh, it
yeah.
must be demonic, it must be evil, it must exist, and it's gonna hurt me and stuff because it's different." And we do that not only spiritually, but we also do that with human beings. We do that with animals. If
Yeah.
you don't understand a human or an animal, you're gonna just immediately say, "Oh, they might be able to hurt me," and that's the wrong way to think about things.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could use the same abilities to, I wouldn't say communicate with animals, but you can, when my brother had a Rottweiler and we'd take him for a walk. There's one lady in the building that we lived in when we were in New York. She would be afraid. The dog senses the fear. And the dog saying, "Why are you afraid of me? What do you have to hide?"
We are getting
That's
another
what they,
call.
yeah. I will, no problem. I will jet, but anytime you want to continue, let me know.
Yeah,
Thank you,
appreciate.
Brian. Love it, love it. Thank you.
Got it. Have a good one.
Yep.
You too.
Bye.
Hello, you are on the air with Caesar and Brandon.
Hey, Skinner and Brandon, how you tonight?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? What's your name?
Hey, this is Greg.
Gray?
Yep. How you doing, Greg?
Greg.
Oh, hey, Greg. How are
Yeah.
you, Greg?
Hey, hey, Caesar. You guys were talking about frequencies, and I was just when I was younger, I went squatting with a buddy of mine, and we were like 20 feet apart, and something ran between us, and it was big, and I was kind of thinking um, it might have been Bigfoot, and my thoughts on them doing the camouflage is changing their frequency, and that's probably why pictures come out blurry because they manipulate the frequencies that you can see them in. I mean, you might be able to see them good, but it's messing with your frequency in the camera. I'm a ham radio operator, so um, the frequencies I understand everything that's being said. I don't understand how it works, but I understand, um, the thoughts behind it. You have any thoughts on that? If that could be the reason we didn't see anything, and this thing it was big as a deer, bigger, but we didn't see anything, and it ran directly between us. We were 20 feet apart, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking just on my thought, and then I'm sure Brandon has his as well, but I think you're right. In order, like I said earlier, Bigfoots, to my understanding, are multi-dimensional beings. So in order to exist in this third density, it has to pull in energy to manifest itself. Okay. So where does it pull that energy from? Well, wherever it can get energy. So a lot of those sensitive energy sources are your cameras, your TVs, your radios, whatever the case is. Now, the bigger energies are your ley lines, the energy that's already being pulled from the earth, like the same ley lines that the ancients put, pyramids on to power up their pyramids, right? I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different story. But the point is that ley lines exist, they have energy. Tesla did his experiments. He found out there's free energy all over the place. The elites end up finding out that that's not good for business, so they keep that in their pocket. But in general, the Bigfoot or anything that manifests itself that is not corporeal, that does not have a meat suit or some will call it a container, has to manifest itself somehow and has to draw in the minerals, the essence, the energy to be able to exist and be perceived or be seen. Brandon, what do you think?
I think with these type of creatures, we'll call them, because I don't. It's hard to give an explanation as to what they could be, so we'll just call them creatures for the time being. I think they have the ability to manipulate stuff. So when they're in our realm, they have to materialize into something that makes sense for us. Like they have to be within the same frequencies and the same densities and everything else. So they have to materialize, and we see them as this. And when people see orbs, I've explained this before. It's if you've ever played a video game where you could actually be, you can move around, you can build things. I don't want to say like, well, in a sense, like Minecraft or like the Call of Duty, where you could build your own stuff, like your own characters and this and that. And you hover around, you can see the world. You're like this little ball that can go places. It's almost like a simulated aspect to it. Like the things that we're seeing, what if they're like the creator things that come in here? Like, so when we see these things that are like a cryptids or a energy or whatever, it's like the creator driving around and they're looking at stuff and we don't actually see them. But like when you see someone building it in the video game aspect, you see these like little things of energy moving around. I feel like that's what goes on with cryptids and like orbs and stuff like that. You're seeing, I don't want to say the creator, but in the context of that, you're seeing the energy of these things moving around. And I relate it to the game aspect because I'm a nerd, but that is how I go about it with you see these things moving, but we don't actually see their whole thing because they're not within our realm. We're only seeing what we're able to see from them because they're on a different wavelength than we are. They're on a different frequency pattern.
What a great way to explain that, Brandon. And I think the game explanation fits anybody's mindset. And yes, we we only perceive, okay, let's talk about the light spectrum. Let's just go with that for 1 second here. In our meat suit, our bodies, our lenses can only see 0.0035% of the light spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is nothing. So if so what I want to put in you guys' head to just kind of contemplate on, ponder on, is if this suit limits us from what, let's just call it, what true reality is. And what's true reality in my context is the full light spectrum, 100%. So if we're living right now in these meat suits and we're only able to see 0.00335%, not even half of a percent of the light. So everything that you see that's beautiful, the light, the colors, that's only 0.0035% of the light spectrum. So if we are able to astral project, leave our suit somehow, near-death experience, whatever situation that puts us outside of our body, now we have access to what? The entire light spectrum. And this is where you see everything going on. So I want to pose this question for you guys to just think about. What's reality? Is it this? Is it the 0.0035% that we perceive? Or is it the after this meat suit, whatever the next life is, in that energy, existence? Is that reality? So just putting that out there.
I think reality, we all have our own. In our like is the best way to describe it is I don't want to say we're all our own like individual world, but our energy itself is contained to this you as you say meat suit. But there's a bigger connection of other stuff out there, and we are just a small piece of it. But like this is our whole world is us, and then our mind expands to this next dimension above us. Like some people say, when you die, you go to an afterlife. But what if the afterlife that people talk about isn't the afterlife that we're taught, but it's something else that we receive a higher consciousness? We go on to the next stage. Again, I'm going to relate to video games. Right now, we're on level 3, the 3D world. The next stage, we go into the 4th stage or the 5th stage, and we keep going up higher. The more evolved we get, the more advanced our mind and consciousness gets. We expand in the frequency realms into like the different planes of existence. So when someone says, oh, you go here, like the bad people go to hell, we'll just use the Christianity aspect, like that's the lower frequency areas, like the darker realms. And then the higher ones they call heavens, like, and that's the higher levels because it's the higher frequencies, and that's the good sides or whatever. Right now, we're stuck in the middle. We're in our own little purgatory. And we go from there into the next one. So depending on how we go about ourselves, we move on to the next stage. So depending on which stage we're going to depends on a lot of other things. And I don't necessarily think it's because of being good or bad, but I think it's just how open we are into this world to the next stage of the world. If that makes any sort of sense. I just rambled, but
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. You know, and we got to also consider the fact that we're talking about not only dimensions. If you want to visualize it, dimensions goes up, like vertical, and then we're talking about parallel universe. Those are horizontal. So now we're dealing with that, and then multiply that by infinity. Okay. So now we are in the third dimension. Okay. Density, that's through measurements, height, length, and weight. That's how we, I mean, and width, that's how we measure the 3D world. But, those dimensions and everything, I actually lost my train of thought on that. But anyways, the point is that we are multidimensional beings, and we actually are able to experience all the dimensions at the same time. But right now, we're just tuned in like a radio and focus on this dimension, this realm, what exists here. But we do have the ability, just like the last guy that was on, Brian, how he can see things. He's able to tune in to other frequencies, and he's able to tune in and see what's happening there, feel, perceive it, everything outside of our routine five senses. So, I definitely encourage people to, open up that third eye, right? And really understand the power of you, of how powerful you actually are. But you have to believe it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you. Don't wait for me to tell you that. Like, you have to believe it and know it, you know? So embrace it.
Greg is no longer on the line. So the line is open. Hopefully we kind of answered his question. I kind of feel like we did and didn't. But
We gave it to him. He's good.
so if anyone else out there would like to call in, the number is above my head, 765-431-7958. We've got probably another 20 minutes to talk. So, but
Yeah.
this is, like I said, it's trial and error. I plan on doing this once a week, every Sunday night. So, is it going to catch on? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be boring? Nobody knows. No one asked for this type of a show, but I just have to do it. I have to try. I've been trying to do it for a year now. I was doing it called After Dark, and then that whole thing kind of went out the window because someone else started using that name. And for me, it was just like, all right, I kind of shelved it for a little bit. I was working on stuff out here in this barn. And now that I'm back, I was like, 2025, I want to start up the call in show. I've got the equipment, I've got everything set in place. I want to get it done, which I haven't really said anything out about this publicly yet, but I don't think anyone really gives a shit, but I'm going to say it anyways. I am now a official business. Like, Tinfoil Tells is considered a business. It is an LLC product. So
Awesome. Love
I,
to hear that.
everything now is a business purchase. So I had to go get a new keyboard today and a little new docking station and everything. And it's coming out of my business account. So I've got all these conventions coming up next year. I'm signed up for like 8 different conventions. So all that stuff is going to that. Like, everything now is going back to the podcast business, which I never thought it would be a business in the sense of that, but I have to pay taxes on it. And anyone that knows me knows that I think that's theft. But
It is.
it is
Congrats.
like, I don't make money I barely break even. And now I have to pay tax on what I made, even though I barely broke even. So I'm still losing money on this business venture, but it is what
Uh, Brandon, congratulations. I celebrate you, for that achievement. The fact that you said that you've had this in mind for a while and then you're finally doing it now. Congrats, dude. That's
I can.
amazing, man. All the support, and I think you're gonna kill it. You've been killing it since, and you're gonna kill it 2025. But a business now, and the business aspect is okay because, you know it's how we look and perceive money. You know, money should be a result of your passion. You know, it shouldn't be the first thing on your mind that people, you know, thrive to, you know, I want to make this amount. I want to, you know, I need more and more and more of this because then what about your passion? You know, some people are doing these, you know, these jobs that pay them lots of money, but they're not happy, right? So if you can do this as a passion and the outcome, the result of living in your passion is monetary value, then more power to you, man. I think it's okay.
For me, I never did this for the aspect of money. I did it because I wanted to find answers. And I have not found the answers.
You're not
But
going to.
I know you never will. And that's the thing that I struggle with. Like for me, like this is why I do what I do. And I was so against wanting to monetize what I do because I didn't do it in that aspect. So it took me over a year before I even come around to the fact of doing it because but I was spending over $100 and something a month just to do this podcast. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll try the random ads or whatever. And then the podcast got bigger and then I started earning a little bit more. And then I got offered to join Spreaker's Prime Network, which means I didn't have to pay for my hosting service anymore. And they pay out more money than my other hosting service was. So I've made enough money to where I was like, you know what, I can afford to get this cabin, this lofted barn, and I've turned it into a studio so that it's paying for itself.
Love it.
Everything I do basically pays for itself, but I don't have anything left over. But now I have to pay taxes on everything I earned, even though I've put it back into the podcast. Like I'm not just sitting out here throwing money, making it rain.
Make it
Like
rain.
I invest it back into the show, and now I got to pay more money to that. So
Yeah. It's all right, Brandon. I mean, this is your anybody's time. Anybody who's putting these podcast shows, you know, these influencers and people that, you know, that the actors for the movies, anybody who's putting in time to provide you something, that money is just more of a of energy exchange.
yeah,
Money is energy. Money is energy. Just come, it's manifested as paper. We
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 assign
bless it, and yeah, we bless it and say this piece of paper is $100. We put the value on it, and everybody's like, yeah, it's $100. It means this, you know.
just because we put an imaginary amount to it, it makes it worth something.
Yeah, it's the same. We do the same thing with personal belongings, right? If you're gonna sell your personal belonging, like to the buyer, it's probably like $10, but to you, it's like, no, this is $50, you know, vase. Well, why is it $50 vase? Because you feel that it is, you know, and right now it's just you singular in agreement that that item is worth more than what the buyer thinks it is. But collectively, when it comes to money, you know, we were told by, you know, who we think is, you know, higher than us, which the government is not higher than us. Just, yeah, I think everybody can agree with that. But they sit up there and they pretend that they're high, but they're telling us, oh, this is how much this worth, and you can't have this unless you give us this amount. You know, like
Right.
get rid of all that stuff, man. Let's go back to bartering and trading. I have spaghetti, you have, you know, wheat. Let's trade, you know, and just keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
No
That
banks.
there's a lot that could go down into that I think we are all it's all by design. It's a mean to control. It's a mean to keep everyone in the to be honest, I think it's a means to keep everyone in a lower frequency. They don't
Absolutely.
they don't want us to achieve that next level that I was talking about.
Yeah, they absolutely don't, you know, because if we're looking at a frequency scale, the lowest frequency is fear.
Yeah.
Okay. And the highest frequency is love. You know, and that's what we're trying to feel. But if you think about it this way, everything,
Yep.
everything. Oh, is there a call?
Yep.
Let's get it.
Hello, you are on the air. Hello?
Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. There was a weird sound when I first called in.
That's probably just connecting to the, we're talking about frequencies, so it's probably connecting to that weird frequency to get on this call.
Absolutely.
It probably could have been. How you guys enjoying doing this live?
It is, I've done a couple. So, like I said, this is trial and error. So for me, it's, you never know what to expect.
Yeah. And for me, I don't really do lives much, so I just record my episodes and put them out. So this is also a cool experience for me as well. Thanks for asking that question, Vin.
Yeah, that's you probably didn't introduce who I was, did you?
No. This is John. You can introduce yourself on this show. I don't introduce people.
Okay. I'm John from Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. And I do a live show every Sunday as well. And it is hard. It's hard. And you do have a little bit of a benefit by having Cesar there to have some little back and forth, because a lot of times I don't have that. And it can be tough. It can be really tough.
Yeah. It definitely helps out to have somebody, like you said, to talk back to. But hey, if you and I'm sorry, I don't know if I caught the name. Was it John, Joe, what?
John.
John. Hey, John, I mean, we haven't met and everything, but if you need somebody, just to do one show with you and like just have somebody banter back and forth, I support all podcasters, that talk about this topic and that feel passionate about what they're doing. So yeah, I just putting myself out there for you if you ever need that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of you. I do my lives on TikTok. I do video lives. So I just randomly get people come into my live and
do you twerk?
I try not to.
Okay.
But every once in a while, you got to pay the bills, man.
True statement.
TikTok, that's the first thing that pops in my mind, and I don't know why, but it's always twerking, because that's literally what I associate TikTok to. Everyone's like, "No, you need to get on TikTok." I was like, "Do you want to see this thing twerk? Because I don't want to twerk."
That's too funny. That's too funny.
Algorithm's showing you what you want to see, man.
So Brandon, when you think of TikTok, you think of twerking. When I think of TikTok, I think of people doing silly, dumb things. So John, what do you think about when you think about TikTok?
Well, see, my whole thing started with me doing silly, dumb things. So
there you go.
Yeah, I started off making just comedy videos, and then I ended up doing a live one night and just asked people, hey, anybody got a paranormal encounter they want to tell me? And it just kind of blew up from there. But
awesome.
Earlier you guys were talking about, the Bigfoot and the cloaking and stuff. I do have a flesh and blood theory on why we can't get a good picture.
Let's hear it.
So if you've ever watched a peacock, when it unfurls its tail and it vibrates really, really fast, which kind of gets back to the frequency. Even high-speed cameras have a hard time catching, still pictures of that. At the same time, I grew up on a horse farm, and horses have the ability to wiggle part of their skin when flies land on them. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to combine those two. If you got a creature that could, and I used to know the name of what that reflex was called, but if they have this long flowing, not long flowing hair, but longer hair, and they're able to vibrate that way, as a defense mechanism or whatever, and you put in the fact that it said that they have, like a, what's that called when it doesn't have the stuff in the middle of the hair? It's late. Anyway, you know, it kind of makes the hair see through. You know,
I know
you
what
combine all that stuff
pigmentation.
together. Yeah, it's that line that's in the middle of the hair follicle.
I
What
know
the
what you're
heck is it
saying.
called? We have it. Some animals don't, and they claim that Sasquatch does not either. But you
Hmm.
know, if they're able to wiggle their skin the way horses do at an extremely fast rate, you know, it could cause these blurry pictures and, you know, people not being able to tell exactly what they're looking at, you know, because it's just this vibration of hair.
Hey, is it John? Is it the medulla?
Uh,
Mm,
Medulla, that's part of the brain.
mm.
Um,
A follicle.
It says I'm looking on ChatGPT. It says the
Megula?
medulla the medulla medulla can appear as a dark or clear line in the center
Okay.
when a strand of hair is viewed under a microscope.
Yes. Okay. That maybe that is what it's called. That just didn't sound right.
Yeah, I know because I know
Medulla oblongata. That
medulla
does.
oblongata. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I don't know. Sometimes ChatGPT knows what it's talking about. It may not be, but this is what it says. So
There's something wrong with it, medulla oblongata.
yeah. No, I'm,
That's
I'm gonna
true.
find out what medulla oblongata is now because now I'm curious. But
It's the
but
base
keep
of the
but keep
brain
but
where
keep going though.
Yeah, it's
the
like a.
medulla oblongata is where the base of the brain hooks to the spinal cord.
I know
Yeah,
because I have
yeah, yeah. It is.
down there.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Wait, what's that? I missed that, Brandon. What?
So a few years ago, and everyone's going to get a interesting topic here that's going to be a Debbie Downer for a lot of people. But part of the reason I started this show is because, well, that's not part of why. I was having weird, like I lost a lot of feeling in part of my body, and they found at the top of my spinal cord into my brainstem, they found like this weird stuff on like the MRI they did, and they said it was like white matter is what it showed up as. Well, I went to see a specialist. It took like 3 months to get into the specialist, and they said it's like lesions for basically there's parts of my brain that are dying. So I have like black spots up here of dead brain cells, and then back there I have brain lesions.
Mm.
They've never figured out what caused it. I've did all sorts of testing.
Wow.
I've had all sorts of other stuff done, and they don't know why part of my brain's dying off.
So your brain's melting. That's what it sounds like. Turning
Yeah,
into white goo.
that's why I should probably start wearing the tinfoil hat more.
Dang, dude. Yeah, dude. Protect your brain, man. Tinfoil that all the way, like 2 layers.
Yeah, so like it's happened a few different times, and I've had to go to the emergency. Like I lose, it's almost looks like I had a stroke, but like I had no strength in my arm or hand or anything. The guys like squeeze my hand. I was like, I'm trying. They're like, and squeeze it. I was like, dude, I'm trying. Like I can't. So, but no, I've been to
Oh, wow.
specialists. They've done all sorts of stuff. They thought I had MS to come back negative for that. So no one really knows what's wrong with me. But if anyone knows my whole history on medical stuff, I always get weird shit that happens, and no one can ever explain what happens. I almost died when I was 8 years old. They all thought I had some weird disease, and everything they test for come back negative. They thought I had Lyme's disease or Rocky Mountain spotted fever and all this other shit, and it never happened. Like all the things came back negative. So I'm just a walking weirdo, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting. Interesting. Brandon, have you, so it sounds like you've obviously have, talked to the doctors, the physical doctors, and they gave you, their responses, but have you gone into the spiritual sense? Have you actually looked at Reiki healers, channelers, people who can actually look at your light body and give you some type of answer that might help guide the doctor's direction? Be like, hey, look, I don't know, I was told this and that. Can you check here? And then maybe they might be like, oh, hey, how about that? Have you tried that route?
No, I don't go into the whole healer aspect of it. It's not really
Gotcha.
something that I don't want to say I don't believe in it, but I don't 100% believe in all that stuff. So if I feel like if I'm not 100% on board with it, it's not going to work.
I hear you on that. I hear you on
So,
that.
and it's not that I don't think that that's not a possibility, but I feel like I think there's a lot of people that say that they're masters of these types of things and they can do all this. I don't even know if they're really. I think they might believe it, but I don't know if what they're doing is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They
That's
know.
a great, that's a, you're, a lot of people are in the same boat with you. It's like, let me ask you this simple question, Brandon. How do you know I'm in pain?
Right.
You don't. You go off of what you think you understand, which is my cues, me verbally saying I'm in pain, whatever. But can you 100% feel my pain? You can't. So based off of that example, I understand what you mean is how do you know somebody is actually doing what they say that they're doing? Whether they believe it 100% or not, you still can't confirm that. So that's where that whole blind faith comes in. You just have to believe that what someone's truth is their truth, and it exists in some kind of fashion.
I've met a couple people recently, and this lady claims that she could heal, and she wanted to. I didn't tell her about any of my other stuff, but I told her I had a headache. So she was trying to do like pressure point stuff, but she was saying that she can do like the energies around her. She's trying to do all this stuff. And like, that was just the free portion. That's where I get skeptical about the whole thing. Like, I didn't feel any different. But when you say that's just the free, oh, you want to start making money out of it, you want to pay for all this stuff, you got, what are you actually doing though? Like you're telling me you're sending all this energy to me by doing your fingers. It's almost like a magician to me. It's like some hocus pocus stuff that they're saying they're doing to you, which I honestly think that's a lot when it comes to the medical field too. They just want to pump you full of medication. They don't want to make you better. They just want to keep you coming back as a client. Because if they cure people, they don't have the money coming back in. They got to keep that business flowing. Like Big Pharma, here I am, Mr. Tinfoil over here. Big Pharma is a big fucking pyramid scheme. So
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
start going off of my rambles, I see the counts are starting to go down. People are like, you don't talk enough on your show. You let everyone else talk. We don't hear about Brandon's opinions because if you want to hear my opinion, I'm going to piss everybody off.
You're totally fine,
I
Brandon.
feel like I came on
Yeah.
the show and made it go off the rails, and I apologize for
Look
that.
what you did, John. It's all your fault. You got
Man.
you got Brandon just going off right now.
This is why I have Crinkle Conspiracies with my buddy Ed. Me and him talk about stuff on there, and it's over there on Patreon. So anyone wants to hear some my ranting, it's over there for the paying members.
That's fair. That's fair. But Brandon, at least you were able to share something personal of yours, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers do appreciate. I appreciate it. I obviously I had no idea of that situation. Now I know how you feel about it too.
Like I said, I haven't had any issues, and I've done all the stuff they wanted to do, and it rubs me the wrong way because they sent me for all these different tests, money after money after money. The last thing they did, they sent me for 3 MRIs for brain scans, $15,000 for just those 3 MRIs.
Mm,
And then they come
lovely.
back saying there's been nothing. So they want me to do every 6 months, come back in for more brain scans. And I said, no, like,
Yeah.
you can't tell me what's wrong. He said, there's been no changes since the year prior. Why do I need to come back in every 6 months to continue to rack up $15,000 worth of bills? So to me, it's just,
That's why they call it practicing medicine, because they don't really know.
I
yeah.
was just thinking that too. Yeah. Yeah. To this day, John, you're absolutely right. To this day, they still call it my practice. Like when a doctor opens up a new place, he's like, opened up my practice. John, I caught that one time a long time ago, and I immediately asked that person, I'm like, whoa, like, what are you practicing? Well, that's just what we call it. Well, why? Because because you're practicing on people. You're,
Yeah.
and some of these guys, they have like every time I go to a doctor's office and I'm like waiting or something, I look on the walls to see if they got a plaque or something. Because some of these doctors could have passed their doctor school with like a D minus, you know, and it's still counted as a degree. And they take the grade out and just put it up there and say, I passed it. So sometimes with the doctors, unless it's a word of mouth or some kind of credible source, you don't know who you're getting. You could have had somebody, and I hate it when they also joke around and they're like, oh, I've been doing this for like, 2 weeks. I'm like, are you telling me the truth or are you just joking around? Oh, I'm just playing around. Well, so,
That that's kind of honestly though, and I haven't ever like really talked about it publicly because I don't really talk about my own personal shit half the time. But the one of the reasons I said I started this show was to find answers and this and that. But this happened. It was the 4th of July in 2022, and when they told me that there was a foreign, they said a foreign object, and they said there was something like white matter. They didn't know what it was. It was not supposed to be there. The first thing I thought, and again, this is me being me, I said it must be an alien implant because they said a foreign object in my
Why
brain.
not?
So I went there, and then I instantly went to, well, not my luck. It's probably a friggin' tumor, and I'm going to die.
Mm,
So that's how I went with the whole aspect. So I was like, you know what? I want to find the answers to some of the things that have bothered me for so long from what I've dealt with, from what I experienced, and I don't have answers to. And I don't want to end up dying and not knowing what the hell I experienced. I don't know what I did and what I saw. I want to talk to other people. So this is honestly, that is what pushed me to start this show because I wanted to leave back a legacy of looking for something like I actually did something with my life to leave back for my children to come back and look at. Hey, my dad was crazy, but he at least tried something, tried to find answers to something. So that's the 100% truth as to why there is a tinfoil's tales because I thought I was dying.
interesting.
So
Fun
I'm going to
fact.
go into interviewer mode for a minute. So I've heard your story,
Mm.
and and we didn't really talk about it when in our conversations. But is there a possibility that you bring up abduction and implants? Is there a possibility that could have been an implanted memory?
That has been brought up before and it's been asked before, and I think I actually mentioned it on Tony's show. Someone had told me before that we were abducted and those were the implanted memories. And to me, I think why would you give me that memory? Like, you're just
Yeah,
gonna,
that's true.
like, if you're gonna do stuff and like make it, why wouldn't I just drove home?
Mm,
Yeah,
Like, why would you give me the fact that I saw something, that he saw something, we went back and all that other shit? That's just like, no, like, dude, you went home and you went to sleep and that was the end of it. I mean, unless the aliens aren't as intelligent as we thought they were. Like, why would you give me something that's really going to make me continue to question it?
that's the thing,
maybe
Brandon. I
maybe
don't.
they can't. I'm sorry.
No, John, please go ahead, please.
Maybe, and this is all theoretical. Maybe they can't completely change your memory though, and maybe there was a dog or something alongside the road, and they tried to make the memory fit that.
Possibly. I don't know. This is after I was on that show. Like, for anyone out there that's still listening, I am trying to do a documentary with my friend Ed called The Mississippi Triangle. We've already filmed some interviews with people. On January 18th, we have the library in Peru set up to where I'm going to be filming more interviews there. But someone contacted me from the same place. Like, I've talked about how it was around a deer preserve. Someone that used to work for that preserve heard my episode on Tony's show and reached out to me to say that they also saw something out there large and black, but they could never figure out what it was. But hearing
Wow.
my encounter brought all those memories back because they can't say that it was a deer because it was bigger than a deer, but they never got a good look at it, but it was just black. So they were going to talk to someone else that still worked out there to see if they've ever had any experiences. And I've reached out to that person again and I haven't heard back from them. So I'm at least
Dang.
not the only one that has seen something in that same area, which
Right.
then when you start going down the rabbit hole, I've found out that there's been a lot of people seeing the same things that I've seen in this area. So it's like, we all can't be crazy. At least not, or we're all getting abducted and all getting the same memories implanted into us.
Right. And that was just when you brought up the thing about the implant, that just where my mind went.
Yeah. The implant that isn't actually an implant, the specialist claims they were dead brain cells. They were lesions from part of my brain. I don't know. I don't know how they
And they can prove that?
Well, they claim by looking at he's a neurologist or whatever. So he claims by looking at it, that's what it is. It's dead brain cells.
Well, that's what makes sense to that. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I mean,
I'm
again,
not saying that they're right either because they don't know what the fuck is wrong with me.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great, you know what? I'll go with that, Brandon. If they're telling you, well, here's what it is, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a contradiction right there in itself.
The
And
fact
I was
that
going,
I had to
yeah,
go do a spinal tap
yeah,
and they screwed that up and then wanted me to go do another one. I was like, no. But that was the worst thing I've had to do in my life. And now you want me to go do that again? Which I don't know.
what?
I know ladies that have like epidurals for pregnancies and everything. This is a little different. They literally put me on this table and lifted me up and like drove a big thing into my spine to drain out the fluid. And I had to sit here for 30 minutes while it slowly trickled into this jar. And
Oh
they had to
man.
ship it from Indiana to Sacramento, and they screwed that up. So
Wow.
by the time I got out there, they sent it to the wrong place, and it was past the time frame of when they needed it. So they're like, they didn't get the actual results they needed, so I was going to have to do another one. I was like, that was like itself was like $15,000. So me being Mr. Tinfoil over here, I'm like, you did it on purpose so you can get more money. Like
Mm.
I always just
Right.
so no, I have no faith in, and this was supposedly the best neurological doctors in the state.
In the state, not even the local area.
No, I had to go down to Indianapolis because I went to the best of the best, so they claim.
It goes back to that word practice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
And you were the shooting drill.
I was something.
Using a basketball term there.
I don't
I
know.
wonder if Brandon, I wonder if you know, you mentioned about why would these beings implant this memory. I think everything's done with intention. Let's just go with that. Let's say that you were implanted a memory. I think it was for the purpose of you getting to where you're at right now, for you to look. They before we believe in all this woo-woo stuff, right? As they call it, they have to help you get tuned in. How are they going to get you tuned in if they don't? They can't just appear to you and just start talking to you. Hey, look, I want you to be able to be aware of me and that we exist. And yeah, they're not going to do it that way. So they start doing things that make no sense to you and drive you, kind of ignite that fire in you to search for it, which then leads you into rabbit holes and then, you know, down different corridors to get to a certain point to where then now you're on a podcast where you're talking to other people who may have ran into the same situation or similar, and through these conversations you're able to connect the dots on the similarities, and somewhere in between there should lie the truth. Just
No,
my thoughts.
you're not the first person that's kind of said that. And I've thought this myself too. Like everything happens for a reason. And someone had said I was supposed to have that experience because I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now. Because had I not done that, I wouldn't be here right now. Like it put me on the path of where I'm at, and they claim the path that I'm doing is to help people else, like other people. So for by me doing this, I'm giving other people a place to come on and talk about some of the things that they're afraid to talk about normally because you're going to be labeled as crazy.
Yeah.
So for me giving that place to people, I'm supposedly doing good. I'm doing trying to help my fellow man or whatever else you want to say, but like they use the term I'm doing God's work. And I'm like, well, I'm not a very practicing religious type person, so I'm not going to say I'm doing the Lord's work over here, but I understand what they're meaning in the sense that I'm trying to do good.
Right.
So, and that's the intention that I had is selfishly, I want to find answers because I don't want to die here in the next like month and not know what the hell was going on and what I ever found. But like, I also wanted to talk to other people and give them a chance to talk about things that I felt like I could never talk about.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no one expected Tinfoil Talks to be deep tonight, but I turned it into something a little bit deeper.
It's beautiful, man. And it's cooler when you say with the green blazer.
Right. Here's the story of this. So for anyone out there still listening and watching, this is a $800 suit jacket that I bought 20 years ago. And
It's
I got it for 95% off It was from Macy's that was closing. It was like the store was closing and it was on sale for like 95% off. I was like, that is an $800 suit jacket. Of course I'm going to buy it. So I think it was like 20 bucks or something. But it's a Ralph Lauren polo suit jacket. It doesn't really fit because I've gotten fat in the last 20 years. But
Stretch it out a little bit. So when's the last time that you wore that jacket?
never.
Really? So this was a special occasion.
This is my live stream jacket from now on. It was in the closet. I washed it. I figured it'd fall apart. Like I worn it when I first got it. Like I was still a single man back then. So me and my buddy was like 21 years old and we went partaked in certain adult establishments that had like provocative ladies around. So I wore it to that because it was a reason for people to take notice to come over and talk to us. So
Yeah,
that was
smart.
that's how I operated like 20 something years ago, and it worked. But I retired it after that, so it's been in the closet for so long because where in the hell are you going to walk around right neon green blazer? But
I want you to wear it on the 18th.
I I might, but then I don't think anyone will take me seriously.
Dude,
Give
I
it a
wear
shot.
That is that's the other thing. This is Timmy.
Oh, it's got a name.
Yeah.
Hey, Timmy.
This is Timmy. He's been going to some of the events I've been going to, and he's been the centerpiece. I mean, I took it to CryptidCon about a month or two ago, and they came over and talked about that more than they talked about anything else. They didn't care about my show. They didn't care about the shirts. They just wanted to talk to Timmy over here and get pictures with Timmy. They're like, you should be selling tinfoil hats. I was like, what? Why should I do that? Like anyone can make it.
Dude, dude, but think about it. That'd be like easy money.
Yeah, dude. People are telling you, people are giving you your financial freedom right there.
But I'm not in it for the financial aspect.
Yeah, but like, but still, they're dropping gems at you and they're like, we can make our own tinfoil hats, but we want you to make it with your hands and your time.
Oh, maybe come May when I start up all these events for the summer, I'll have some tinfoil hats for sale.
Oh man, I want one. I want one.
I kind of do too.
Yeah. See, you got 2 customers already, but we get the friends discount, buddy. So let's do that.
Well, guys, it has been going on for 2 hours. So I think we can probably wrap this one up.
All right. It was good. It was good. What do you think, Brandon?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's always cool when people want to come on and talk, especially the whole call-in aspect again, because you never know if someone wants to call or not. So
Yeah. Let's think. Let me see. It was Amber. There was
Amber,
Brian,
Greg, and now
and
John.
John. And John. Hey, man, you guys, appreciate you guys. And again, I'm gonna plug in. I'm on Beyond the Frequency 369. So look me up under I think it should be a link that Brandon posted earlier. But look me up on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. I talk about ancient civilizations, aliens, the Anunnaki, consciousness, the power of the inverse, not the universe. And a lot of people that have been coming on the show are they have what you would call superhuman abilities. So it's a fun watch. So by all means, check it out and enjoy it.
Thanks to everyone that has watched tonight. John, do you want to let everyone know where they can find your show at?
Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, where I won't be twerking. I promise you that. You can find me on YouTube and Spotify. And if you go to my YouTube, you can find the link to my TikTok because it's not the same name. Because, like I said, I started it as a comedy thing and it ended up being paranormal. So,
how does it go from comedy to paranormal? I'm curious. What did I miss here?
I started off just doing comedy and I was doing lives. And one night I was like, you know what? Let's find out if anybody has a paranormal
Oh, okay. I remember
And
you
then people
saying,
started coming in the live, and then it was like, okay, well, then I wear this fake mullet. And so I started doing this. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do like a little podcast out of this. And I took the mullet off, and I couldn't get anybody coming live. And when people did come in, I was like, hey, where's your hair? Why'd you cut your hair? So I just put the mullet back on, and that's where the myths, monsters, and mullets comes from.
dang, what first of all, thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. So, Brandon, there's the sauce right there. I use this term very loosely, but there's your gimmick there, like with the mannequin or Timmy, and call him by its name or Tim, and your green jacket, because now you got to give the people what they want. You just called
Yep.
out and said you're gonna wear the green jacket. I'm gonna expect to see the next live with the green jacket and Tim in the background.
It hangs on this. It's gonna be in here. But
Nice.
you
Love
say
it.
people what they want. I can't give everyone everything they want because literally I see the shitty comments people leave me all the time. Like so
What's the last
Yeah.
I tell me, I'm intrigued. What's the last comment that
the last one was I should let the guests speak for themselves and stop interrupting them all the time. I was like, I barely even fucking talk.
Yeah, yeah. You talk way less than I do. I can tell you that.
But someone had the gall to tell me that one. I was like, what show are you listening to, dude? And then it's the same person. He left a comment saying that for like I shouldn't put the guest through like interrogations for like 20 minutes or whatever. I should do my background research on them. Like,
oh
man,
wow.
What?
like, what are you talking about?
But
I
hey, it was a comment, and that counts.
I guess. But
yeah. Brandon, I think that was a copy as well, because I think I got one. I think I got something like that too. I'll have to look it up and then I'll send it to you and you tell me if that's the same person and stuff, because that sounds very familiar. I've only had one like negative comment, so to speak, and it was like that. It was like let the guest talk and blah 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 with what you were saying. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. I'm gonna look for him. I'm gonna send it to you.
yeah, that's, but no, someone else claims I don't have much of a personality. I was like, well,
Look at your green. Look at your office. Look, that's, there. See, people get confused with with how people express their personality. You've expressed your personality all over in your barn there. Okay, so if people are looking for your, I like your monotone. Your monotones. I told you this before. It's very. I think what did I tell you that every time I'm listening to you, and a guest talks, and then they stop and then you have this like pause that everybody's like, what's Brandon gonna say? What's he thinking? And then you talk. And that's what grabs everybody's attention. So keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
I said I don't change for anyone. That's not a good mantra to have because it sometimes gets me in trouble. But I was
I
like,
like it.
I am who I am. So
Yes.
I'm not going to change because someone else doesn't like it.
Yes. Dang. Good
I
stuff.
too like your show, and I do like your interview style.
Well, I appreciate that. But we're going to wrap this one up. So again, thanks to Cesar, thanks to John, thanks for Brian, thanks for Amber, and thanks to Greg for calling in tonight. Thanks for everyone out in the chats. I will be doing this every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting on the last Thursday of January. I think it is the 29th. I'm not sure, 28th or 29th. But we will find you on the next one. Till then, see you later.